Hello beautiful people. So today we're going to be doing a redraw Sailor Moon in your own style challenge, and you can see on Instagram I'm looking at some that other artists have done. This is something that my friend Little Paracosm drew my attention to, so we've decided we want to try this out. I'm going to do this in watercolor, and of course we always need music to jam to while making art. So I'm just going to start off with a pencil sketch. Redrawing something in your style is kind of an interesting concept for me because right now I feel like I'm still trying to discover what my style is. So I am trying like a few new things here. So in case you don't know who Sailor Moon is, well, neither do I. I know I'm probably gonna take some heat for that, but yeah, so maybe you can let me know in the comments if you are actually a fan. So now that I've got it all out in pencil and I'm happy with it, I'm going to go over it in pen. I'm just using like a normal regular pen. If I try to use like a gel pen or anything, the paint's just gonna smudge. So I trust those like old crusty free pens that you get almost. In fact, I think this pen is from like some hotel or another. So once I'm finished with my pen work, I'm then going to take my eraser putty and just gently remove all the pencil lines. I don't want to like rub too hard because you don't want to smudge your ink. And now we start with the fun part, which is the watercolor. The light's a little bit harsh, so you can't see the exact colors I'm using, but basically I've just put down a little bit of pink on her cheeks and her nose, and I'm now just going to cover her whole skin area. So we're going to basically start off with like a flat base color. So we're just going to fill in the area of like flesh skin and the hair, and then we'll build on top of that. I really want to give her these like striking blue eyes. So I'm going to start with a lighter color for the base, and you'll see later that we'll work on top of that and make it go a little bit darker. But I always like to start with my lightest colors and then add darker colors later. I'm doing separate pieces because I need the first layer of everything to dry before you start adding more on top of it, ideally. I have smaller brushes, but I feel quite comfortable using this bigger brush because it's got such a nice defined sharp tip, which helps me get into those like really small spaces. So for the background, I'm kind of just going to go for this like spacey kind of vibe, I guess, and I'm just wetting the whole background before adding color, or rather just dropping color onto it. I'm using a little bit of the same color I use for eyes, just so that I have some continuation in my artwork. And then as I'm going, I'm dropping darker blues and purples into it. This, by the way, is a wet on wet technique. So now you can see I'm going and adding some darker areas and shadows. I still plan on going darker, and I'll probably repaint over a lot of this stuff, but it's a start, it's a process. So what I want to do now is I'm diluting and making a light brown or a darker flesh color so I can drop in some shadows, but I don't want it to be so strong and harsh. So you can see I've diluted some on my palette on the side. I don't actually know what these red things in her hair are supposed to be, like in the cartoon. They don't really seem to serve any purpose. So I try to make her hair like wrap around them almost. And I decided to drop some red into the backdrop as well. Although it came out purple, I just want the red to be somewhere else in the image as well, near the bottom, to balance out the red at the top. And you can see now I'm going to go and define her eyes a little bit more. So I've decided to actually go and use some blue for the shading, just so that I have some continuation with the blue. And I just felt like the brown shading I put down wasn't really casting strong enough shadows. And I felt like adding the blue just gave it a slightly different element. I also try to add some of the blue shading into her hair, but because I've already dropped a lot of yellow and stuff, it's almost coming out like a green. So you can see I'm going to drop a little bit too much paint and water. You can just use a dry brush or tissue paper to pick up water or excess paint. I kind of like watercolor because you can control it quite a bit. I'm trying to define some shadows more, but I'm also scared of overworking it. And now that her eyes are dried, I'm going to go add in her pupils. And I leave the fun parts for last. I'm using my Koi metallic watercolors to go add gold to her earrings and her crown thing and her necklace. And lastly, her eyelashes, which I nearly forgot to add. And now that the background and everything's all dry, I'm gonna go and outline her edges just to bring her forward from the background. And now I'm going to use some white acrylic paint just to add some highlights. I want to then go and outline her hair just to make it a little more defined, but I don't want the outlines to be as strong as the outer outlines that I made, so I'm using the pen instead of the fine liner. And the best part is peeling off the masking tape. Unfortunately, it did tear the paper in some parts, and I don't know if perhaps I stuck it on too hard or if I should find a different type of masking tape. If anyone out there can give me some tips, I'd really appreciate it. I just love the clean lines it leaves, which is the whole point. And there we go, my version of Sailor Moon. Tell me what you think, and tell me if you decide to do this challenge as well.